All right, grab a Bible, go to Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. If you have been with us over the last couple of weeks, we've been going through this series called the New Season's Greetings. The first week when we got together, we talked about this idea of making sure that we were not so distracted, so busy, so out of our mind with everything else that happens around this time of year that we lose sight of what it's all about. So I gave you the story of Mary and Martha, told you I have a Merry Christmas, not a Martha one. And so spending time with Jesus, spending time making sure that you are focused on why we're here, okay? The second week, last week, we got together and we talked through these 4 times that it was said to Zechariah, to Mary, to Joseph, to the shepherds, do not be afraid. And so 4 times it said that. And so we talked about this idea of setting aside all fear, all anxiety, anything else that could hinder us from truly experiencing Christmas the way that we should. Tonight, we're going to finish this one up. Like I said, this is the last time that we're going to get together until January 3rd. But let me tell you a story first. Okay, so have a Bible. I'll tell you where to go in just a minute. But here's a story for you guys. About 5 years ago, I think, 5-6 years ago, my wife and I, were given a gift from a family in our previous church. The gift was something that I've never had before. 7 nights anywhere in the world. 7 nights anywhere in the world. It was given to us because this family had a timeshare outside of Orlando, Florida, right outside of Disney World, and they wanted to be able to bless us, and so we had a chance to be able to choose anywhere that we wanted to go. And we chose, listen to this, listen to this. We decided to take that blessing and make it a blessing for our kids. And so we got home from Christmas Eve service up in Del Rapids, South Dakota, where my old church was. We drove back home, and when we walked into the door, my kids found a piece of ribbon. And they found a note. And it said, follow this ribbon. That's Decker and Layton's down there reading. They were 7 and 2 at the time. And the ribbon that they had followed all the way through our house, and as they went, they were given clues. Right there, Layton found some sunglasses. The picture before was an Atlanta Falcons jersey. The next picture after this was, you can't see it very good, but that's a sand bucket. The next picture, we found an airplane. The next picture, right there, they're sitting in front of, they had a little Christmas tree that sat on Decker's train table in his room. And what they found there was a bunch of little Disney characters. The next one, let's see here. That's just Layton being Layton. Yeah, hard to believe, right? Hard to believe. And then the final one was tickets to an Atlanta Falcons game. So here's what happened. We had them follow this stream. We drove up to Minneapolis. We jumped on a plane from there, flew into Atlanta, Georgia, went to the Georgia Aquarium, went to a Falcons game, and then from the Falcons, game, we drove from Atlanta to Orlando, where we spent the rest of our time sitting outside of Disney World and all this other stuff. And so here's what happened with it. The place was right outside of Disney, so we were there, yes. So we spent our time going up to New Year's Eve, we spent New Year's Eve day, actually, at Disney, with my 7 and 2-year-old boys. And here's the point of all this, is when they received the gift, they were talking about it. When they were on the trip, they were sharing with everybody, the people on the plane, everything else, all about what they were going to be doing as they were on this trip. And then, when we got back home, they were telling stories after stories after stories of everything that they got to do. Because here's the point for tonight, is when you have been given something of great importance, you talk about it. That's what it's all about for us, is when you have been given something so great, you can't help but share it. And so tonight, we're going to talk about this part. Go to Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. And we're going to look at a few verses. But here's my question for you guys. as high schoolers, do you stop talking about what you've received? Do you get as excited about Christmas and the days following it as you once did when you were a kid? Is the first response when you open gifts talking about who am I going to share this with? Who do I have to text? Who do I have to call? What am I going to say to the people about the things that I've received? Because here's what I think happens. The older and older that you get, the less and less you get excited about what you've received. That's what I believe, because I see that true for me as an adult now. That somehow it loses its excitement. It loses just kind of the surprise of it all, and therefore we stop sharing about it. Somewhere we forgot that the story of Christmas is the same thing. That there's something amazing about it, and there's something that we need to continue to talk about and share with other people around us. And in fact, we even look at the Christmas story and we think that after the shepherds come and they see that the story stops there. But what we're going to talk about tonight is the fact that the shepherds came and they saw, but they also responded. And I think the response that they had is the same response that we have still today. So there's two responses. The first response to Christmas that comes from Luke chapter 2 is this, that we should be able to come and see. That in Luke 2:15-16 it says, when the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let's go to Bethlehem and see the thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about. So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in a manger. It was the same response the wise men had as soon as they saw the star. In Matthew 2, verse 2, it says, we saw this star when it rose and have come to worship him. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. When they heard what God had done, that he had sent his son, they had to see it and experience it firsthand. They had to see it for themselves because they were told what to expect, but when given the news, they had to go and see for themselves. But I think for them, again, it's the same response for us. We need to come and see just like they did. God's call to them to come and see is the same call that he has for each and every one of us. That we need to come and see what God has done. Come and see what I've done for you and what I can do for you. In fact, in Psalms, before Jesus was even born, King David encourages us to taste and see that the Lord is good. Jesus himself puts out the same thing, where he talks about it in Matthew 11, verses 28 and 29, where Jesus himself encouraged people to see for themselves what a relationship with him was going to be like. And it says that, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. You see, Jesus knew what people would experience when they came to meet him. They would experience love and forgiveness that is only available in him. They would be forever changed for the better. He also knew that once they were changed by his love and grace, once you had experienced and seen and been changed by his love, then you would know what your response would be. That you would go and this gift of his son would be something that you're sharing with everyone around you. They wouldn't be able to keep it to themselves. That is why the second response is that we need to go and tell. We need to come and see first, but then we need to go and tell. Telling others is just a natural response to something when you receive something so great. That I guarantee that if you've ever received a gift that has been of any importance to you, your natural response is to tell someone about it. Same is true. But here's the thing is, as excited as the shepherds were, excited as the wise men were, God also knew that he needed to protect them and intervene before they got their excitement too out of control. Because if you remember the Christmas story, that all of a sudden the king finds out that this new king has been born. What's his response? Kill all the newborn babies. And so God has to intervene and say, no, don't go and tell yet. Because if you do, you're in jeopardy of making Jesus be killed. And so God intervenes because, again, their natural response is wanting to go and tell everybody. And it says it in Luke 2, just a few verses further down in 17 to 20. It says, when they had seen him, They spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. Sometimes I wonder, did the shepherds gather around before they actually spread out and tell everybody? Did they actually think okay, Bartholomew, come here. Your job is you're going to talk about the first angel, okay? And then you're going to talk about where he said, fear not, for unto you a child is born. That's your job, Bartholomew. But then Ezekiel, your job, you're going to talk about the star, because that was a pretty cool part, right? So Ezekiel, you're talking about the star. And then Jedediah, I don't know if angels had names like this, but that's what I'm coming up with. Jedediah, maybe you talk about this whole part where we were surrounded by all these angels and they were starting to sing. And then Doug is the fourth one. Doug, your job is to talk about Mary and Joseph and the baby in the manger. Okay, ready? Break. Did they do that? Because here's the thing. They had so much to tell. They had so much to tell. And they wanted to make sure that everything was said that needed to be said. And so what did they do? They went and they told everyone. Anybody that they came in contact with, and probably even the sheep, because that's what their job was, right? So they did this, and here's the thing, is we see this as a natural response. A natural response for the wise men and the shepherds, but also, did you realize that this is true for any part where Jesus came in contact with people for all of his life? From birth to the cross. Anytime that somebody came in contact with Jesus, his response. So look at this in Luke 8. Jesus comes in contact with this guy who is possessed by demons. And as Jesus heals him, the man says, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And Jesus' response in Luke 8:39, it says, return home and tell how much God has done for you. His response, go, tell. And nearly 1,000 years before the birth of Christ, the psalmist urged the people of God to tell others what he had done for them. In Psalm 107, verse 2, it says, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. Once God has shown up, once God has made a difference in your life, your response, our response, is talk about it. Tell people about it. Make sure everybody's in on it. This isn't just for the Christmas story. This is for everything. If Jesus has done anything in your life, your response is to go and tell. See, I think there's another response though too. That come and see and go and tell, those two responses are typical responses for Christmas. But I think that there's also one other response that occasionally gets put into play. It does in my house at least, that, there's that come and see, yes. There's a go and tell, yes. But have you ever received a gift that you weren't excited about? For me, my wife and I have kind of this thing where we let our boys, we buy for them something that they want, something that they need, something that they'll wear, and something that they will read. Those four things. We try to stick to that because then they kind of know what to expect. But the one part where they don't get real excited about it is the something to wear part. Have you ever really got excited about something to wear? In high school, that's all you want. In high school, that's true. But when you're talking about little kids, that is the least excitable part that they have. Okay, so when I was growing up, my brothers and I had two older brothers. We had this joke every Christmas where if we were opening a box, our natural response was, it's a sweater. Our natural response every time. Maybe you guys don't know the context of this, so watch this video from, there's a movie called The Three Amigos. Anybody ever see it? Watch this.
Hippie. And the rest of the boys, we chipped in and got you this gift. Mochita! What can you say about such men? It's a sweater! It's a sweater.
All right, so now you get the context of it, but this was our joke all the time because we honestly just got to this point where even in high school, we got bored because it was the same old thing, same old thing. How many times do you lose sight of the importance of whatever gift it is that you receive? And how many times have we actually done that with Christmas as a whole? Where year after year we get ready to celebrate and we're just like, well, we get Christmas break, that's cool. And yeah, we're going to get some presents, that's cool. And I hope that you guys do get what you want. However, if that's all that you're looking forward to, then we've completely missed it. That how many times do we just have this boring reaction to what Christmas is? And when we're talking about this idea of come and see, we're talking about this idea of go and tell. Do we fall into this one where our response is, just the same old thing? My hope is, as we've talked through these 3 weeks, that it gives you a different light of what Christmas truly is. That we're talking about Jesus coming to earth, because here's the thing is, God sent the greatest gift that we could ever have, and you've heard people say that before, but do you truly believe it? Because a gift is something that's given when there's a need. A gift is something that's given when it's something that we are desperately in search of. And when Jesus came and we received that, it's because we needed it the most. And because there's nothing else that could fill that present. God wanted to make that connection with us. And so he sent his son in such an amazing way that we cannot just treat it as a normal day. And I pray that we will not treat it like that during Christmas right now. For some of you sitting in this room, maybe your response needs to be that you need to come and see. Maybe you need to just come and find out who Jesus really is. Get to know him a little bit more. Talk with your friends about him a little bit more. Maybe that's your response, is come and see who he is. The rest of you, your response is a little bit different. You've come and seen. You have figured out who God is and what he has done, and you're all about it. But have you responded in the way of going and telling? Have you responded in such a way that your friends, your family, your classmates, your coworkers, everybody else knows of what you have received? We have two responses, but it does require something. That for each one of us, you need to choose. You need to come and see. You need to figure out who Jesus is and what he has done. And do you need to go and tell people about him? That's what we should be doing for Christmas. We shouldn't be looking forward to the next thing that we're going to get. We shouldn't be looking forward to, less than 2 weeks that you guys get off. It's a short break. We should be looking forward to the fact that God sent what we needed. And we received it, and now we have a response. Will you guys pray with me? God, tonight, we wrap this up, and we are excited for Christmas, for all the things that it entails, for all the things that we get to look forward to. But God, I pray that we are so excited about the fact that you have sent your son as a gift to all of us when we needed it the most. You sent Jesus into this earth as a baby. And that's what Christmas is all about. And God, I pray that we would all respond accordingly. For some of us, that we would respond with this idea that we need to come and check him out. We need to figure out if Jesus is who Jesus says he is. We need to come and we need to see. But then, God, for the rest of us, we need to be able to go. We need to tell. Because when we receive something of such great importance, that our natural response should be to go and tell. That we will not be silent, that we will be telling everybody about what it is that we've received. Our family, our friends. Because here's the thing is, from the beginning of September, we've talked about this number that increases every day, every second. And right now, seeing that it's over 7 million people that have died without knowing you, have died knowing that their eternity is in the balance. And these 7 million people will spend eternity without you. That should create in us an urgency. And so, God, I pray that you would stir in us a desire to go and tell. to tell everybody. Because, God, I pray that we just won't be silent. God, allow us to look forward to Christmas. Let us look forward to what it is that you have done. God, let us celebrate and let us enjoy the time that we have, but let us not lose sight of what it's really about. We love you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Will you guys stand and come forward? Grand earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me.
Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and the winds still know his name. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and the winds still know his name. The waves and the winds still know his name. And it is well with my soul. And it is well with my soul. And it is well with my soul. And it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is
it all, and through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are, and it is well with me. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken, and great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken, and great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Let's sing that again. And all the We pour